Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, and this is the regular governing board meeting for the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board. I hereby call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance. We would like to ask Miss Jaslyn Kimbrough from Wigwam Creek Middle School, 7th grade, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Next, we are going to take a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Next up, we are going to move on to recognitions and celebrations, and this is going to be done by Executive Director Nuanez.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Davidson, fellow cabinet members, and esteemed guests, both present and online. On behalf of the entire Litchfield Elementary School District community, I am delighted to extend our heartfelt congratulations to our outstanding regional sports champions for their remarkable achievements during the fall and winter seasons. The dedication, perseverance, and sportsmanship displayed by our student athletes truly exemplify the values we hold dear within our educational community. Throughout the fall season, our athletes demonstrated unparalleled skill and determination, resulting in numerous impressive victories. Congratulations to Verado Middle School, 8th grade girls and boys volleyball teams for their undefeated seasons, showcasing their talent, teamwork, and highlighting their unwavering dedication and competitive spirit. Congratulations also go out to Wigwam Creek Middle School, 7th grade girls volleyball for their commendable 10-3 season, illustrating their resilience and commitment to excellence. Rounding out the fall season, we congratulate Western Sky boys soccer team for their undefeated season, demonstrating their passion for the sport and outstanding teamwork. As we transitioned into the winter season, our student athletes continue to shine brightly, especially our teams from Western Sky Middle School. Congratulations go out to 8th grade girls basketball for an undefeated season, their skill and determination on the court. 7th grade girls basketball also had an undefeated season, highlighting extreme hard work and dedication to their sport. And 7th grade boys basketball, congratulations for an undefeated season. They demonstrated a lot of talent, a lot of dedication, and perseverance. Additionally, we are proud to recognize the remarkable achievements of our cheer teams. This past weekend's competition created a clean sweep for LSD 79. 3rd place, Belen Soto. 2nd place, Western Sky. And 1st place, Wigwam Creek. Yes. Yeah. Amazing, amazing work. These accomplishments not only highlight the athletic prowess of our students, but also underscore the vital role that sports teams play in molding successful students. Participation in sports fosters invaluable qualities such as teamwork, discipline, resilience, and leadership, which are essential for academic and personal success. Our student athletes serve as outstanding ambassadors for our district, embodying the principles of hard work, sportsmanship, and dedication. They inspire their peers and enrich our school community with their achievements both on and off the field. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our coaches, families, and the entire school community for their unwavering support of our athletic programs. Together, we empower our students to reach new heights and to achieve to their fullest potential. Thank you for your continued commitment to providing enriching opportunities for our students, and congratulations once again to all of our remarkable sports champions. Okay, it's picture time. Okay, if we can have Coach Wiley and his team. If I could have the other teams start to assemble, as I call you up, we will come up as a group. Do we have anybody from the Verado Middle School in attendance? Verado? Oh, okay. There you go. Go ahead. Please share.
So this group right here, I've been coaching them sixth, seventh, and eighth. The majority of them, there's a couple that joined us this year for eighth grade, but they've been undefeated 3 years in a row and won all 3 years. So tremendous accomplishment.
That's good. All right. Congratulations. All right. How about Wigwam Creek Middle School, seventh grade girls volleyball? All right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Wigwam Creek. Okay. About eighth grade girls basketball. Was that the first one we had? Okay. Seventh grade girls basketball. Western Sky. Oh, yeah. Rock the hardware. Western Sky Soccer. Western Sky, seventh grade boys basketball. Did we do those already? Okay. Coach K with sixth and seventh grade girls basketball. Seventh grade boys. Seventh grade boys. Bring in the hardware. Yep. Yes. Is this the last one? All right. All right. Anybody else? All right. All right. And last but not least, Wigwam Creek cheer team. Ready. Okay. All right. We don't do that anymore? Okay. All right. One last round of applause for all of our sports champs. Thank you.
Okay, now that we have cleared the room out of all of our amazing student athletes, we are going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public requests to speak. I'm going to read this disclosure. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS 38-431.01H, this agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board. Items not listed on the agenda may be brought to the governing board's attention under this section of the agenda. Due to the Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take any action on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, response to public comment about matters not appearing on the agenda will be limited to individual board members who may ask staff to study the matter, respond to any criticism, or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda for further consideration and discussion at a later date. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. Tonight, we have 2 speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Megan Burris. Can I have you hold on just for a second? I want to make sure the mic is on so people that are listening, they can hear.
There you go.
There
Can
we
you hear
go.
me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, let me start over. So hello, my name is Megan Burris and I live in Canyon Views, or the neighborhood I like to call the outlying panhandle of School 17. I am here to express my deep disapproval of the decisions that have been made regarding my child's schooling. This decision not only creates an unnecessary inconvenience for our family, but also introduces significant disruptions to my children's social, educational, and psychological experiences. Our bodies have been in fight mode since 2020, first COVID and then inflation, and as time seemed to be getting easier, now we're being forced to fight for our kids and their current and future well-being. We are having to fight with the people who are supposed to have our children's best interests at heart. The stress that has caused the families in our neighborhood is insurmountable. They even have a whole Facebook page devoted to this. I always knew that we may get rezoned as we are in the center of new builds, but the transition plan is not beneficial for my child's education. Having to drive my son 30 plus minutes one way daily to Thomas Heck is not conducive at all. Your answer is the bus system, which has proven to be unreliable time and time again. If you are unable to see the systemic issues that are plaguing the district you are representing, I question how you are making decisions for our children. We had an incident just this last week where the after school run club was canceled at the last minute due to rain. Luckily, we live 5 minutes from Verrado Elementary and my husband was able to get my son in a timely manner and he didn't have to wait for long. How would that look if he was at Thomas Heck in 30 plus minutes from our house? You are asking to have our children move school buildings 3+ times in the upcoming years. My son has been at Verrado for 6 months and still isn't 100% comfortable. Who wants him to have to feel that way 3 more times his schooling years? I have sent you all a study that proves how frequent mobility to students impacts them for their entire lives, and there are many more studies with similar results. You had an Aqua Fria representative on the committee with you all, yet no one seemed to notice that our neighborhood solely doesn't match on both maps. So we will move our kids to Thomas Heck, then to School 17, then we'll be asked to separate them from their friends and send them back to Verrado High School. This is forcing them to form new friendships only to potentially uproot them again when transitioning to high school. But also places an emotional burden on their social development. I urge you all to reconsider these zones, or at least, the very least, come up with a different interim plan, taking into account the potential negative impact on the children's educational and social well-being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Paula Lovejoy.
Hi, my name is Paula Lovejoy. I'm the reading specialist at Rancho Santa Fe Elementary.
Hold on just a sec. We want to make sure the mic.
I can project. Yeah.
We got the mic has to, we have to have the
I'm
mic.
just-
Yeah, sorry.
Covering up nerves. It's okay. All right. My name is Paula Lovejoy. I'm a reading specialist at Rancho Santa Fe Elementary. And while Rancho does currently have one of the lowest number of students in the district, a smaller population does not equal less need. 55 to 60% of our students are on free and reduced lunch, and that number is projected to at least remain the same for next year in spite of the boundary changes that will decrease our population a bit. We know that traditionally these students need more support to grow and achieve. The proposed staffing cuts will require us to decrease our staffing, not only at Rancho, but across the district. Currently at Rancho Santa Fe, our math and reading departments provide targeted tier 2 and 3 intervention to about 30 to 35% of our students. Reducing the number of staff that we are able to have at our school will directly impact the number of students we're able to serve, which will, of course, in turn, directly impact the outcome for those most vulnerable students. Once again, I'm sorry, limiting the number of providers on a campus such as ours or any other is removing support directly from our most vulnerable Litchfield learners. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we are going to move on to the adoption of agenda and consideration of the consent agenda. I will go through and see if anyone has anything that they wish to pull off of consent. Mr. Owens?
No, thank you.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, I would like to pull 3 items from consent, please.
Okay.
Item 6.10 or 6.10, which is the classified employee change, new and change. 6.13, which is the certified employee new change, and 6.14, the job descriptions for the Director of Construction and Assistant Director of Transportation.
Thank you. Ms. Clymer?
I forget procedurally. I just have a question on one item. May I
You have
take
to
it?
pull it off. Yeah.
Pull it off. Okay, I apologize. Then that'll be 6.8, please.
Okay. So I have nothing to pull off. So we need a motion to approve consent agenda minus 6.8, 6.1, 6.13, and 6.14. Sorry, 6.10.
So moved.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Wait, did we get a second on that?
I don't think
Sorry.
we seconded.
Oh, so moved.
Um,
I'm sorry.
I will second.
There, now we have a second. I'm
Yes.
sorry to mess you guys up over there without our normal board secretary. Okay, first and a second. Mr. Owens?
Still yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we will address 6.8 first. Right?
Okay, that is me. I'm guessing this is going to go to Mr. Vaughn because I think this is who this is brought to the board by. My only question is, how do these services that are under this contract differ than the services that are overseen by the trust?
Yeah, so we're still working with the same attorneys at the trust. It's just certain legal coverages are covered by our prepaid legal plan and other services are not. So this is particularly related to a Title IX process. And we were informed by the trust that that's not covered by our current prepaid legal plan. And so this is to allow us to move forward with working with those same attorneys, but just on a type of legal services that aren't provided under that generic plan. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, no, it does. I thought that's what it was. I hadn't seen it before, so I just wanted to know. Thank you. That answers the question.
Did anyone else have any questions? Mr. Owens? Ms. Moran?
No.
Okay, then we need a motion.
Oh, are we going to do them individually? Okay.
Yeah.
I move to approve item 6.8, the addition of a cooperative contract strategic alliance for volume expenditures as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
I am also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we will move on to item 6.10. I'll let you open that up, Ms. Moran.
Yes, this is a consent agenda item normally. Oftentimes there are things on here that don't really need attention or discussion. But in this case, I think there is. So Dr. Davidson, I would open up the floor to you to tell us more about our new Director of Transportation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moran, for the opportunity, and governing board members, staff and community. 6.10 gives us the opportunity tonight to recognize an administrator on our team that's been doing a fantastic job in our middle school, serving as principal. With the board's approval and vote tonight, we'd like to recommend Ms. Jennifer Tassin to serve as Director of Transportation come July 1 of 2024. Jenny has had a lot of conversation, went through an interview process, and has come out as our top candidate. We are excited to see her vision for leadership and for transformation of a department that it's been a bit of a struggle for the last few years. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight Ms. Jenny Tassin, and I'll stand for any other questions.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. So as was mentioned in the public comment, and as those of us who are parents in this district who rely on bus transportation know, it hasn't been as consistent as we might like. So how do you anticipate this change in leadership to have an impact on the overall reliability of our transportation department?
Thank you, Ms. Moran. That's a multifaceted question, but I'll start with what I believe one of Jenny's strengths is, and what the real rationale for looking at her as our top candidate is leadership as a whole. We are in the people business, and I know that Jenny, having run a school for many years, understands working with people. Our drivers, our office staff, custodial staff, whomever is out there, mechanics, everybody is here to support the well-being and of our students, student success. Jenny has demonstrated that that is key to her role. And I'm just excited to see her come to the department, Ms. Moran, and rally around those that are there. So retain our current staff, but also find ways to establish a culture that causes people to come work for us and with us. So that's step number one. And I think we'll be able to answer that even more thoroughly once Ms. Tassin is in the role.
Okay, that sounds great. I look forward to those positive changes. My last question, just because this board has made a point many times in the past to ensure that we are looking at all possible candidates when we have an opening, especially at this level. So can you tell me a little bit about the position posting, how many people interviewed, kind of how that whole thing worked, please?
I got it. Ms. Moran, we went through a pretty rigorous interview process. We had several candidates apply. I'm trying to recall right now. I think it was 5. And we had stakeholders from across the district as part of that committee. So each got to provide their input on each of the candidates, what they felt were their strengths. And Jenny was above all the top pick. So.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, did you have any questions or comments?
No questions. I'm really hoping that this works. Obviously, transportation has been an issue since I've been on the board and even before I was on the board. So I know that families rely on transportation to be consistent, buses to show up when they're supposed to be there, so that, you know, issues that were talked about earlier aren't common. That does need to be. And so I think it starts with leadership. I think that's right. So I think hopefully we have the right person, and I'm looking forward to positive changes.
Ms. Clymer.
No question really. Just one other comment, which I know we'll address later, is that we're also up for approval tonight is another position within the transportation department of assistant director. So I think that Jenny, in concert with additional staff members there in the leadership role, will help additional transformation of that district, having additional leaders there that can do that. So I think I wish her nothing but luck. You know, middle school principal is a very hard job, and director of transportation is going to be no less challenging. So thank you for explaining the process, and I wish her nothing but the best.
I do not have any questions, but I will say that I get to be a parent of one of her students currently and have had another student with her before. So it's very hard for me to separate my mom hat and what I'd like for my kiddo versus what I know is the right thing for this district, because Ms. Tassin is a phenomenal leader, and I believe she is going to make great changes in our transportation department. And I wish her all the best and all the luck when she goes over there. I am sure that the skills she has learned from working at her campus with her students and her staff are going to serve her well in this new role that hopefully we're going to approve here in just a moment. But I just I'm really excited to see the changes that you're going to be able to make over there. So with that, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I move to approve consent item 6.10 as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran,
Yay.
Ms. Clymer.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to item 6.13, which is certified personnel employment. This is also Ms. Moran, so.
Yes, so similar to the previously approved consent agenda item, this has what I would call a biggie on here that I think deserves some discussion and additional information. So Dr. Davidson, I would love to hear more about the new principal of School 17.
Thank you, Ms. Moran, for giving me the opportunity again to highlight an exceptional leader in the Litchfield Elementary School District, someone that has a great tenure, not just with us, but also at his current site. As we've gone through this process, and certainly we've heard some from our community tonight, the build of School 17 and all that comes with it is significant. It does cause angst. It does bring change to our district. But we also know the excitement that will come in just a few short years. There is some transition happening. And again, similar to my last conversation, it starts with our leadership. We contemplated the who and the how the process would look, but it became very clear that we wanted to open 17 with someone internal, someone that has some Litchfield experience, has demonstrated significant abilities and leadership, and can bring a community along with them. Mr. Jenke stepped up and said, I am interested. We did open that position up to numerous internal candidates. We decided from a leadership perspective to look at those who are serving as assistant principals and above. And so we had a nice process there with Luke serving and basically winning that opportunity to be School 17's principal. So Mr. Jenke has been at his school for 12 years. And again, similar to Ms. Tassin, has committed much time, energy, love to that community. And I know that he will do a good job from the ground up, literally, for School 17 and with the board's approval tonight.
So just to clarify, Principal Jenke will become the principal of School 17 beginning this coming school year. So he will start from the students day one and be their principal and then move with them to the new campus once that opens.
Yes, ma'am, that is our expectation.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, did you have any questions?
No questions, but similar to you having a mom hat, I have a dad hat, and my Principal Jenke's got a great reputation in Verrado where I live. My daughter's going to be a kindergartner there next year. So she won't get the opportunity to be there while he is, but I know he's left a great foundation at Verrado, and I think School 17's really lucky to have him. I'm excited for what he's going to do to build that school.
Ms. Clymer.
Yeah, no questions. Just congratulations to Luke. He's been in Litchfield for a long time and has won many awards and has raised up a lot of staff members and have gone on to do amazing things in the district. So I expect no different for School 17. So congratulations to Principal Jenke.
I also have no questions. I think that Mr. Jenke is the perfect choice for our new school, and I'm excited for him to get to start that process from day one with his students and his staff and be part of the building it up and getting to start working with our parents as soon as we're able to set up the meeting with them very soon, right? So that they can start interacting with him and building that school family and school culture, which I know he's going to do great at because he's done great things at Verrado since he's been there. So with that, if someone would like to make a motion.
I move to approve consent item 6.13 as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran,
Yay.
Ms. Clymer.
Yay.
I am also a yay. Motion passes. And with that, we have a new principal for the brand new school. That's very exciting. Okay, we are going to move on to 6.14. Job descriptions for a couple of new jobs. This was also Ms. Moran, so I will let her open that up.
Yeah, I would just like to have someone on the cabinet, it doesn't have to be Dr. Davidson, just say a little bit more about both of these positions, the need, how they're funded, because some of the feedback that I've gotten is that we are cutting classroom or resource or school support positions, but we're adding district office positions. So I just want to be really clear as to why we are adding these positions.
I'll start with the director of construction, if that's okay. So we will be talking later in the agenda, but we've been talking for several months now around the bond program that our community was gracious enough to pass for us. And so when we look at that bond program, it really is $100 million of construction projects that will be completed over a fairly short amount of time, probably 3 to 5 years. And what we realized is to best manage those resources that our community has made available to us, we really need a high-level employee who is focused on construction projects. Presently, how that looks in our district is we have a director of facilities who both tries to manage all construction projects as well as the maintenance of our existing campuses. What separating these two roles would allow us to do is to have both a director who is focused on those bond funds and building out the new school, as well as doing major renovations to existing schools as outlined in the bond program. It would separate that from the day-to-day custodial and maintenance of our schools, so that neither I'll reword that, so that both get the attention that they deserve. Because the director of construction would be focused on those bond programs, we would have the opportunity to fund that position with the bond funds. Before I move on to the assistant director of transportation, any questions on the director of construction?
So just to clarify, the funding for this position, even though it's a district position, will come out of the bond fund. So it's not taking money from a classroom or taking money from a different type of student support.
Correct. So it's using a funding source we legally cannot use to fund school level staffing. Typically speaking, you actually can't use bond funds to support staffing. The only reason we can in this case is it is a position that will be solely focused on bond projects.
Okay, and there are no other positions we can fund out of the bond.
Not that would be fully focused on bond projects.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
So the director of construction can't spray weeds?
I would advise against that. Yeah.
Ms. Clymer, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I mean, I will say as the shout out from what Ryan just said, I mean, our employees do it all. It doesn't matter if you have a director, executive director in front of your name, you may be out in the parking lot spraying weeds. So we see you, Dan.
I don't have any questions, so we can talk about the next one.
All right. So the assistant director of transportation. So we already talked about Jenny's real strength and ability to provide leadership to that department. The concept of the assistant director is twofold. In the past, we have had 2 supervisors in that department. This is elevating one of those positions to provide better organizational structure to that area. It also would ensure that we have a high-level administrator in that department that is more technically focused. So whereas Jenny would be very focused on leadership capabilities and building that culture, and the assistant director would help with that, the assistant director would also be very focused on the more technical aspects of student transportation. So we're hoping that the two positions combined provide that department the leadership that's really needed in that area. When we were doing the interviews, what we found is it's just very difficult to find one person who is an absolute expert at both leadership capability and building culture and transportation technical aspects.
Okay, so this is a new, sorry, Dr. Davidson. just one note for clarification, CFO Vaughn. So this is a new job description, but it's not a whole new position. We're basically kind of rebranding an existing position into this step up, if you will, to provide more leadership to the department.
We have historically had two supervisors, and so this is using that same concept, but having an assistant director instead.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Moran, I just would like to add to the story. Over the last many months, and certainly the board was well aware as I came to the district that transportation needed some additional support and resources. And we went through that path. We had a director, as you know, who did leave us, which has caused many of our team members to spend additional time in the department. There's been a lot of learning, a lot of trying to understand what's happening in that department and how to best support. What we recognize and why we've come tonight for this request is not only is it sometimes difficult to find the unicorn that has both significant leadership skills as well as an unbelievable background in transportation, it's also very, very hard to lead a department that opens their doors close to 5 a.m. and doesn't close their doors till, in some cases, late in the evening when buses return from a field trip, as an example. And so we need to secure that we have leadership that's able to work side by side, adjust their times accordingly, and have support for that department throughout the entire work day and evening. There's just no way for one person to do it all. And so I think that's another thing we need to keep in mind as we put more energy and insight into this department. Certainly, we all know the conversation around insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's time for us to get a different result. And I think it's this type of conversation that we need to have that says, okay, we're going to do something different and expect something different.
Thank you for that. The only other thing I would add, and I think we might get into this more when we get into the budget discussion, is I get the impression that there are some people who look at district positions one way and classroom positions another way. And we can't educate the kids if we don't have the transportation to get the kids there. We can't educate the kids if we're not giving them the food that they need to, so it's a cohesive relationship. So I don't know what we can do to help with that messaging. There's just an observation. I'm not sure what the cabinet can do to help with the culture piece behind that, because we should all be on one team. It shouldn't be where our, let's say, math specialists feel like, oh, the admin cabinet, they're choosing an assistant director of transportation over me. And I don't want anyone to feel that way, because that's not how these decisions are being made. So I'm not sure how we can better communicate that, but just a suggestion.
Mr. Owens, did you have any questions?
Bless you. I don't have any questions. Just to pick up where Board Member Moran talked about, I don't know about the communication part of it, but I think if it happens, then we've communicated it, because we're hearing less and less about the problems. And so I literally used your sneeze, literally everything I was going to say went out my brain. So I'm done. Yeah.
Ms. Clymer?
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions about this. I would just echo the same response that, from a communication standpoint, I hope the board has been clear. My assumption is that the cabinet and admin staff are being very clear that, the new staffing model that's been created and these new positions that either were included in it or in addition to it are to make this entire district better. And that's what we're all here to do. So we want every school to be amazing and as good as it possibly can be. But we also need our district services to be top of the line. And our parents are not experiencing that with our transportation department right now. We know that. And we hear parents come and talk about it. We get the emails, we, see it out on our school campuses, and it's our job to fix that. And that's exactly what I think we're trying to do and what the cabinet has been trying to do with this new position and with these position changes. So I would hope also that once the dust settles and everything comes, full circle with the new staffing model, that I think people will see the benefit that, all boats will rise with this. So that's my hope.
I don't have any questions. I appreciate you pulling this off the consent because I do think it's important for people to hear, one, about the position for Director of Construction and how that is for the bond projects, and it's funded from bond project, like from the bond money. And so it's not taking away from anything in M&O that goes to our classrooms. And then as far as transportation goes, anybody that's ever listened to any of our meetings or as a parent in this district has had to deal with canceled buses or the situation that we've been dealing with for a long time. So we have got to fix it. And we're not even adding a new person. We're just kind of elevating one position to a slightly higher title so that they can try and make some changes. So I think this is a good change overall. And I'm excited again to see what's going to happen with Jenny Tassin and this new person that comes in and how that's going to make things better for everyone in this district. With that, if someone would like to make a motion.
Go ahead. I apologize. I move to approve item 6.14 as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran,
Yay.
Ms. Clymer.
Yay.
I am also a yay. The motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to action items. This is going to be the consideration and possible adoption of the resolution providing for all matters related to the sale and insurance. It's item 8.1 on the agenda.
Shall I get us started?
Sorry. Yes, this is going to be
Okay.
presented by, not, that doesn't say, okay.
It's quite the intro.
Go ahead.
there.
Sorry. Yes, whoever.
Is that a yes? Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Davidson, colleagues and community, thank you for joining me tonight to allow us to move forward in the sale of bonds related to our most recent successful bond election in November. The attachments on the agenda item include a resolution allowing the district to move forward, related agreements connected to the bond sale process, disclosures the district will make to potential buyers of the district bonds. This sale is consistent with the plans for the bond program previously presented to the board, and this sale in particular will primarily support the construction of School 17. After tonight, our next steps will be meeting with the rating agency and other involved parties to move the process forward. This timeline will make proceeds available from the bond early to mid-April. At this time, I'm available to answer any questions you may have. We also have Brian Lundberg from Stifel, the district's investment banker, in the audience as well to help answer any potential questions.
Okay, Mr. Owens, did you have any questions about this item?
I do not. Thank you.
Ms. Moran?
I also do not have any questions as this bond issuance is fairly procedural, I feel.
Ms. Clymer?
No questions, just thank you for putting all this together. It is procedural, but it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of know-how and having someone at the helm who knows what they're doing. So thank you for keeping us on track.
And thank you to Brian and the team at Stifel because they really help.
Yes, thank you for being here. I also have no questions, so we appreciate that you came here for us to not ask any questions tonight. But with that, if someone would like to make a motion.
I move to, approve item 8.1, consideration and possible adoption of a resolution as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to discussion items, which is going to continue our discussion on the budget. This is also going to be presented by CFO Vaughn, because it's the CFO Vaughn show for the next few meetings.
It's true. All right. Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Davidson, colleagues and community, thank you for joining us tonight to discuss the district's budget for the 2024-2025 school year. We will start tonight by discussing the compensation study that was conducted by Heinfield Meach and Company for this year, and then move into some recommended changes for next year. We will then begin discussing some work the district is beginning around addressing our utilities spending district-wide as part of a long-term strategy towards managing our budget holistically. The compensation study that was conducted this year was more holistic than those conducted in prior years, which will allow us to discuss different components to compensation beyond the placement chart. Tonight, we will first visit overall conclusions, then discuss some findings around our work calendars, our wage compensation, and then Executive Director Coley will discuss findings around our benefits packages. The approach to the compensation study conducted by Heinfeld Meach included asking surrounding and similar districts to actively participate in the study. The above school districts were asked to provide compensation information, such as actual average compensation rate for a wide variety of positions, the starting placement for those same positions, benefits information, and calendar information. This approach allows us to get a clearer view into the competitive landscape the district is operating in. Overall, the compensation study found that the number of workdays and paid holidays were not always consistent with other districts depending on the calendar. Overall, compensation was highly competitive for most district positions, with the district being at or above the average, but that Litchfield has a unique compensation structure that is very heavy with performance pay. There were a handful of positions that were identified as being below average, which we will have a recommended process for addressing in the 2025 budget. The compensation study identified a need to review the district's 12-month work calendar for comparability to surrounding and competing districts. Work calendars can play an important part of determining if compensation is competitive, because compensation that otherwise looks competitive may not be if the organization is having employees work more days to earn similar compensation that other districts are paying for less work days. This slide shows a detail of many of the districts in the compensation study, the calendar days of their 12-month calendar, as well as holidays to determine actual work days. On average, the district's 12-month employees are asked to work 3 additional days compared to surrounding districts. This is something we would like to address by expanding 12-month employee time off connected to already existing school breaks, such as winter break, spring break, or Thanksgiving, where currently 12-month employees only receive part of the time off that school-based staff receive. This proposal would not cost the district financially. When looking at wages, almost all employee groups came back as being highly competitive. When considering total wage compensation for teachers as an example, our average teacher was $5,000 above the average teacher at comparison districts. However, due to Litchfield's unique compensation structure, which is very heavy on performance pay compared to other districts, the timeline of compensation is substantially different. For example, a teacher in Litchfield could receive up to $9,500 of their compensation at the end of the year as performance pay, where the average from the districts in the compensation study was closer to $4,500. Because more of the compensation is timed at the end of the year, the reoccurring paychecks during the year may not support our teachers feeling as if they're being compensated higher than other districts. We are interested in reviewing the timeline of payouts of performance pay to help address this issue and garner feedback from the field on if our employees would prefer the performance pay spread out across the paychecks throughout the year as opposed to being paid as a lump sum at the end of the year. The compensation study did identify about 30 position types that did not initially appear competitive with peer districts. We will be reviewing these placement charts and individual employee compensation in those groups to bring forward a recommendation to align these positions and employees with a competitive wage based on the compensation study. For positions already shown as competitive, we're presently recommending a 2% raise for next year, which aligns with the inflation adjustment that the district must receive each year by the state. At our next board meeting, I'll have more detailed financial forecasts on how all of these recommendations look against our projected revenues for next year to allow us to have further discussion on if any changes from this baseline recommendation would be advisable or supportable given the overall context of the budget. I'll now hand it over to Executive Director Coley to discuss employee benefits.
Employee benefits are a critical component of the employee total compensation. School districts are required to pay wage-based benefits, which equates over 20% of pay, including Social Security, Medicare, ASRS retirement, long-term disability, and workers' compensation benefits. LESD was above average in all categories relating to employee compensation. When comparing employee-only plans, Litchfield Elementary outshined the neighboring districts. Our employee-only group may save up to just over $7,000 with our plan choices. On the PPO plan, our employees may save up to about $1,800 compared to other districts. On the HDP plan, employees may save up to nearly $640. I'll now take a pause and ask the board if they have any questions or would like to discuss anything relating to our compensation or our benefits.
Mr. Owens,
No questions.
Ms. Moran.
Yes, I have some questions. Okay, so let's revisit the work calendar. So can you say again what you said about what you think the recommendation will be? It'll be 3, we will give folks, and I want to know which folks are going to benefit from this, 3 additional days off that will align with days that students are not present.
Yeah, let me go back to that slide real quick. So when the compensation study looked at the work calendars, it looked at the work calendars for all employee groups, but the only area we saw a discrepancy really was our 12-month employee group. So these are primarily the positions at the district level that don't get the summers off, that are full year 12-month employees. And so if we were going to align our 12-month calendar number of work days with what the compensation study is showing, what it would be saying is that we could provide 3 more days off. When we had conversations at the cabinet level on what that might look like most reasonably, it would be looking at those school holidays where those 12-month employees don't get the full time off presently, because we don't want 12-month employees being off when schools are in session, obviously. And so some of those examples would be spring break. We presently, as 12-month employees, don't receive the full spring break off. We work certain days, Thanksgiving, Christmas, winter time. Those are all examples where schools get more time off than the 12-month employees. And so we wouldn't be recommending matching the school calendar exactly, just to provide potentially those 3 additional days off. But our recommendation would be at one of those times, so there's no real impact to the schools and the services that those 12-month employees are providing our schools.
And do you anticipate that those days would be set, or it would be?
Yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be just like, here's 3 days, choose when you want to.
No.
Okay, it would be like the district office is closed on this day.
Correct.
Okay.
Wait, before you move on, I had the same question. So just before you move on to that same thing. So in here, it says paid, unpaid 16. Is 16 the recommended, or are you recommending 19? Like adding 3 more to what is there now?
We're recommending adding 3 more to what there is now. The reason the table had to show that is we were trying to model what other districts do. And Avondale has a bit of a unique model where they have some that are paid days and some that are unpaid days. Our recommendation would be to keep them paid because it wouldn't actually cost the district anything more than it does now. It simply would just be you no longer have to work those days. Based on the results of the compensation study, I think we would have concerns around the competitiveness of our compensation for those 12-month employees if we switch those 3 days to unpaid.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate, we currently have 16 days off. I say we, the 12-month employees, I'm sorry. And you're recommending that you would move that. So in the 24-25 school year, it would be 19 days.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Paid days. So I mean, I guess not to interrupt, but like,
No, go
I
ahead.
just want to, I would like to know how we are going to ensure that folks don't forget that maybe they're not getting as high of a raise as they would like, but they're getting more time off. Because people like their paychecks to look
Correct.
more. And
Yeah.
so, but this is obviously I think, pretty big benefit for, it's like a raise in a way.
Yeah, I like, as you were talking earlier, I think it comes down to communication. So we would lean on Sam and his staff to assist with that. But that's really how the compensation study structured it. So they looked at total compensation and identified areas we weren't competitive. But it also looked at calendars, and the reason it did is because just because we may be paying the same amount in total, if we're asking people to work more days to earn that same amount, we're not necessarily competitive.
Agreed. Do you have anything else on that, Board Member Clymer?
About the calendar? Do you have anything?
Yeah. I guess I just don't understand the goal. I mean, you said that we're trying to be average or above, and right now we're clearly in the middle of this pack at 16 days. So we're going to be at the top of the pack. So really our goal is not to be average. Our goal is to be the most competitive, because right now we work basically the same number of calendar days, and they have, I mean, they have more paid unpaid holidays than half of these districts that are listed here. So I don't have any issue with that. I'm just trying to understand the goal, which is we're trying to increase that competitiveness so that our overall compensation increases without having to monetarily increase their salary, since we don't have the money to do that. Is that a fair assessment?
Ms. Clymer, yes and no. So if you look in the far right column, number of workdays,
Mhm.
you'll see that's really where the analysis is at. Because the calendar days and the paid unpaid days are back and forth district to district, but we're assessing the number of work days. And so right now, the average is 241 between all of those districts. So if we brought ours to be more in alignment with that average, we would be maintaining competitiveness there. But to your other point, yes, if we're providing them time off and their paid days, then that is a benefit.
Additional part of their compensation.
And we would just have
I
to make
understand.
sure we communicate effectively. But again, it would be during weeks when the district is already on break.
Yeah.
So we would just have to communicate that out.
Understood. Thank you.
How many district employees fall under the 12-month calendar? Approximately.
That's a great question.
It better be more than the 5 of you.
I'll ask Eric to sneeze while we look that up.
Ms. Moran, for a conversations perspective, this is discussion. No vote is required this evening. So certainly before a vote is made, we can get this information to just to keep the presentation going, if that's okay.
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
I do have another question on this section of the presentation, though. So on the performance pay over time versus the way we pay it now is kind of like a year-end bonus. Do you anticipate that would impact retention at all?
So it's interesting. I think it could go both ways. Mr. Coley and I have seen where if you're engaging potential employees and current employees that are used to the compensation structure at other districts, it can be rather jarring, because as we're having those conversations, you see our compensation and you see that it's higher, but then you come to us and you have a smaller take-home pay. And that's entirely because of that timing difference. So we have actually seen where we have lost employees because of it. Now you may have long-time Litchfield employees who really like the current structure. It also doesn't necessarily have to be a all or nothing type decision. So Litchfield, one of the reasons we're heavy in performance pay is we actually have two different performance pay structures for, just as an example, teachers. We have our performance pay that comes from the classroom site fund, and that's about $5,000. And then we have performance pay that's coming from M&O that's up to $4,400. So it's possible that we could get feedback that says, well, maybe we switch one of them to pay over the course of the year, and one of them we keep at the end of the year. It's just something that was very striking in the compensation study. And so it was something that we thought that we should at least get some additional feedback on, because it really is something that makes Litchfield unique. And and that's not me saying we should change it, but because we're choosing to be unique in how we compensate our employees, it does have some consequences when it comes to recruiting individuals from other districts. But to your point, but also how we retain employees as well.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And so, yeah, I think probably choosing one of those buckets and disseminating that throughout the year makes more sense, because then you still have that kind of bonus, if you will, at the end of the year that you're aiming towards. I know one of the things that the board has discussed in the past is the fact that we call it performance pay, but most people get it. So it really isn't based on performance. So I would be all in favor of us eliminating that, because my definition from the corporate world of performance pay is that you have to perform in a certain way in order to get that pay. And that isn't really what we actually do with that money. So I would like to see our teachers get more throughout the year. I think they would appreciate that more potentially than a higher bonus at the end. So
I would agree. And because it's simply a timing question, one thing that's nice in our current environment is it doesn't necessarily cost us anything more. We're literally just talking about, when do you pay this money out? Would our employees appreciate a higher paycheck throughout the year, or do they enjoy having a lower paycheck throughout the year compared to other districts, but a much higher basically year-end bonus?
yeah, I mean, I think people will feel more appreciated if they can see a higher increase. If we go with the 2%, let's say, and then we're able to distribute the performance pay throughout the year, I think people will feel more appreciated, hopefully.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great.
To clarify on that though, would the district that be going to speak to our teachers to kind of get feedback from them before it's ultimately presented to us as a plan?
Yes, we wanted to have some discussion at this level, just to let you know what we saw in the compensation study, but we very much want to gather feedback. One of the things that's a little bit difficult in gathering feedback is it's hard to gather feedback from potential employees that would come to Litchfield, because we obviously can't really survey them, but we would like to gather feedback from our existing employees to see what the feel would be around changing up the timing of at least some of that performance pay.
I understand that. And I want us to be making sure that we are enticing to new employees, but I would say my first priority would be to try to keep who we have first and make sure that that's something that who we have wants. And then I'm sure that people that come in will be fine. Dr. Davidson.
President Zion, I meant to also add, if we begin to change and propose a different performance pay model, that does require us to get a certain percentage of vote from our staff who are eligible as well. So as we gather feedback and build something that would be different, we would certainly have to get a vote that would then be some data for you to help inform you in your decision making as well.
Dr. Davidson, if I could clarify, those rules only actually apply to the classroom site fund performance pay. And so depending on our feedback, if we decided to instead do it with the M&O performance pay, we wouldn't have that same legal requirement, but obviously we still want to gather that feedback and see what the field would feel about a change like that.
Excellent. My last question is, I really like this feedback and I like that we are telling each other that we're competitive. But how are we going to communicate that, or how are we currently communicating that with our employees to make sure that they have the facts behind how we compare to other districts?
So I think that first started with tonight and our board presentation, but I think that Matt and I probably have some work to do with Sam around the broader internal communication strategy with this information. But we wanted to make sure that you at least had a first glimpse at the data before really doing a push.
Yes, thank you for that. And as much as I want to think maybe everyone watches this, I know they don't. So I just want to make sure that again, that people have the facts behind their total compensation as well, because one of the things that you brought up were the benefits piece, and especially if they are getting benefits only for themselves. I mean, that's a huge advantage versus what they would get in other competing districts. So I want people to know that that's another reason that it might not feel like it's in your paycheck, but it's another reason maybe to stay with Litchfield or to come to Litchfield.
Yeah, and I mean, you point out the individual only, and for sure that's where we saw the biggest difference. But I think it's telling that a difference, a positive difference, was seen across the board with the benefits. And so the overall message is the compensation study said that when considering our unique performance pay structure, by and large, we are highly competitive in wages, but we are also highly competitive and ahead on the benefits side as well. So total comp wise, we are in a good place.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, did you have any questions about this?
No questions. I too would like to get the feedback from the teachers on how they would like that payout. I know, teachers have told me they kind of, they get the bonus at the end, they pay all their bills through the summer and they know what they got left kind of deal type stuff. So if you're going to adjust the way our current staff, manages their budgets, I think that's important to get their feedback prior to.
Ms. Clymer.
This is on the performance pay piece or just in general? Okay. Yeah, I have always felt, and Dr. Davis, and you don't know this about me yet because we haven't had this conversation, but I've always felt like I'm on the opposing team when it comes to performance pay because I've just never understood the structure. We have this criteria and it is there, but everybody gets it. So it can't be performance pay if everybody gets it. That's to me, that doesn't make logical sense. So if what you're saying is we want to move up that performance pay, we can't call it that. You can't pay someone from day one and call it performance pay because we don't know how they're going to perform. So I don't have any issue with doing that. We just, in the M&O money, we have more flexibility with. So if we want to move up that, what is it, $4,400, $4,500, whatever possibility, we're just accepting that everyone is going to get all of that, right? If we move it forward, we would just have to say, okay, everyone's going to be eligible for this amount, and we would do that. But I just can't support calling it performance pay when everybody gets it and we get it from day one. That doesn't make logical sense to me.
So the thought would actually be to base it on prior year performance. So in the person's first year in the district, the structure would have to remain the same as it currently is, meaning you would get paid in June. But then in your second year and future years, we could potentially base it on that prior year of performance so that we would know their performance at the very beginning of the year.
So, and I don't remember all this. So please correct me because I'm going to say this wrong. I believe there's tiers as your first, second year, third year teacher, right? You move up levels. So you would if you get paid based on prior performance, are you then given some sort of bonus at the end of that year? Because if you do move up a tier, you don't want to miss out on that. So would they be able to reap those benefits at the end of that? Like, let's say their fourth year, they're getting paid on their third year, but that would be less than they would be eligible to make, let's say, in their fourth year. So that fourth year, you would even it out in June.
So what we're potentially thinking at the moment, although this certainly hasn't all been baked out, is simply as opposed to paying it in June, you would take that same amount and pay it across the paychecks the following year. Now, the first year you would get the same payout that you would have always gotten. But that second year, it would be spread out.
So, right, I understand, but I'm saying if you were to perform at a higher level in the next year.
Those levels are primarily based on the years of experience with the district. And so it would be paid at that next tier, but based on the prior year's performance.
Level, okay. Okay, and then with the classroom site fund performance pay, that is not able to be moved up, is what I'm hearing you say. That will have to be paid at the end of the year.
It legally can be. It just has more strings to pull to make it happen. We have the legal guidance that we can do it with either set of performance pay. But if we're going to do it with the classroom site fund, that requires the process that Dr. Davidson was explaining, where a certain percentage of the employees that are in that plan would have to approve of the change. And it's I don't have it memorized off the top of my head, but it's a fairly high mark. I think it's 75%.
Yeah, I think it's 70%. Yeah, 70 something percent. Yeah, I've been through that process before. Okay, so I understand that. Okay. I know this is not fully done, so I will have additional questions, but I will just say I understand the point of this and I want to make it better for our employees. That's the number one priority here, but I need to understand more about what you're going, what you're going to call it, how it's going to work, how are people going to get paid. So I'm just going to remain on the fence for a little while because I need that to logically make sense in my brain that we're doing what's best for employees, but we're also financially doing what we're supposed to be doing with money that we call performance pay. So I'll leave it at that. I had one other quick question. Is it my time for this or okay? As we're adjusting salaries, I think they said there was like 20 or 30 positions that might be affected by the salary adjustment. What does that look like for people that would they still be eligible for a raise, or would that be considered their raise if that adjustment would happen this year?
So what we've done in the past, and by the past I mean last year, is we looked at what would be the higher adjustment, the proposed raise that everyone is getting, or the proposed adjustment that would come from what the compensation study is recommending. And so we didn't penalize employees and give them the lesser amount. We gave them the greater amount, and we would propose following the same procedure this year. And so what that would look like is you would get a minimum of a 2% raise. And if the compensation study said that more was needed to remain competitive, that it would be that higher amount.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have two questions about the performance pay, actually, to go back to that. One is, you said that a lot of districts only have like half the amount that we do for performance pay at the end of the year. Do they have these two buckets of performance pay, or is it just all their normal base pay?
They only have, what is typical is you only have the classroom site fund performance pay. We have a lot of unique structures though in our M&O performance pay, which is why I wouldn't necessarily recommend completely getting away from it. We make a teacher leader project available to our highest level teachers under that performance pay system in M&O, which is actually a remnant of, I don't know if anyone remembers the old career ladders program that Litchfield actually just continued out of their M&O, whereas other districts, when that funding source dried up, they just did away with that program. And what teacher leader projects allow us to do, or it's a it's a structure that Litchfield uses to do this, is really allow teachers that are experienced in our district to shape their growth as a leader. There's a variety of teacher leader projects that we expect to occur on various campuses where there's enough experienced teachers to have them happen. But there's also engagement and discussion between principals and those teacher leaders on what would best serve both the campus and that and the development of that teacher in the form of a teacher leader project. And so I don't know from an employee development perspective if we would want to move away from that teacher leader project, because it really is providing a good work both in the employee development area and on our campuses.
You kind of answered my second question with all that, so I'm good. So I don't have any more questions. If everyone is good, we can move on to the next item.
As part of our staffing for the 24-25 school year, we met with all of the departments and discussed and assessed their individual needs. What you see here are the 4 tier 1 priority requests by some of the departments. The requests are tier 1 due to compliance reasons or because the position does not currently exist. We also listen to feedback and would like to provide the option for all staff to elect dental and vision benefits. This subset would be at employee cost if they work less than 40 hours a week. Dental is around $390 for employee only, up to $1,183 for employee plus family. And then comparatively, vision ranges from $69 for employee only to $237 for employee plus family. This slide you're seeing now, these are tier 2 requests. 3 different position requests are coming from the facilities department and designed to help better maintain our school sites. These were considered tier 2 based on the need and availability of existing staff to manage the areas. We did, however, feel it was important to mention and open up for discussion regarding our facilities and maintaining our grounds. So this slide is looking at our stipends and additional compensation. We reviewed with special education and evaluated some of the harder to fill positions. The goal in mind is to attract and retain talent where we're having a really difficult time doing so. Additionally, the intent is to reduce the need to lean on our contracted agencies. And there's a lot of info on that slide, so I'll pause for a minute. Lastly, feedback from the community ed and transportation departments indicated a desire to provide personal days to our bus aides and community ed site leaders. This screen kind of showcases the cost breakdown for the stipends, the personal days, and the addition of employee benefits. Total cost for the stipends equals $510,000. You'll note that providing the stipends, there's a savings of about $7,800 per contracted instructional aide that we do not hire. Additionally, there's a savings of about $36,000 per certified contract teacher that we do not hire. As we wrap up the discussion on our stipends and additional compensation, we wanted to acknowledge our teachers who take on additional students when we're unable to secure a substitute. Currently, the district only provides the stipend if a teacher gives up their prep time. This new stipend will ensure teachers are compensated anytime they're helping cover a class when we can't get a substitute. I'll now turn over to the governing board if you have any questions or comments.
Mr. Owens.
I do not. Thank you.
Ms. Moran.
I do. So again, when I look at this slide 15, that's the additional district needs in tier 1. If I'm a teacher or if I'm a support staff person, I'm saying to myself, how is this impacting students? You know, you want to eliminate my position, or you want to change the supports that students get in the classroom, and really even from a parent's perspective. And I see the notes, I see what's written in here, but can someone just go through and just highlight kind of, are some of these things like the warehouse, for example? So, we're looking at a fixed assets accountant. I understand what that is, what that means, and I understand that that really was something that this administration inherited that should have been done a certain way and was not done in that way. So can we just talk about these positions a little bit and just give us more insight as to why these are coming up now?
Thank you, Ms. Moran. I'm going to start and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Vaughn here. Just in context totally for this part of the presentation. This was your cabinet being just completely transparent and throwing out all the information to our public and to you as a governing board just on things that we're seeing that need to be addressed, feedback that we've received from the field. I'll share with you on behalf of our staff that are working with our students with disabilities, in particular at the White Tanks Learning Center or in our specialized programs. Feedback from principals, from many of our educators is this job is amazingly difficult, more so than some of our other educational positions. And principals were very clear, if you had the ability to do anything different with compensation, please consider helping our staff who are dedicated to that particular subgroup of students with disabilities. So we've been working hard behind the scenes with Ms. Aiken and her team just to put some information out in front of our public and in front of our board, because it is unique. And the more we can retain, first and foremost, secondary, more than we can recruit our own people, that will equate to student success over time. If any of our principals, I know Ms. Tasson's here, and I don't know if I'm not going to ask her to come to the mic, but as a principal, the amount of time some of our people are spending to manage and to lead, for that matter, maybe even 2 out of 25 classrooms on their campus, the amount of time is incredible. And so our desire is for us to really talk from a compensation perspective, how we could secure our own LESD 79 employees, not having to use agencies that are really charging us a lot more for the same, if not even less, professional abilities that we might otherwise get. From a tiered perspective, we started at a tier 1, just saying, hey, these are some pretty big time needs that have not been addressed, and we need to talk openly about how we can overcome some of those obstacles. Title IX and supporting our children and families out there that are dealing with harassment and inappropriateness across just comments made and actions made with students. We have to do that by law. The piece on inventory, Ms. Moran, that you were mentioning, similar to our bond program, we have a considerable amount of capital resources out there that could use some more finite detail and management. So those are just things I just wanted to be honest and open about. We're bringing it all to the table tonight. And certainly, again, we're not voting, but I appreciate the questions, and I'll let Mr. Vaughn kind of dig into those, to the nitty gritty. So thank you.
So I'll add a little bit. I'm not overly focusing on this position. It's just first on the list. So the fixed asset and record management accountant, we're still working through the audit for last fiscal year. And the reason that audit has been delayed is capital and fixed asset management. Presently, the district has over $100 million of assets that it tries to manage, and over $14 million of equipment capital assets that can move around the district. The district has compliance requirements around inventorying that equipment every so many years. If it's federally funded, it's 2 years. If it's not federally funded, it's 3 years. So best practice in the state is to just inventory your entire district at least every 2 years. We also have great opportunity around managing excess property at our campuses, that can actually end up saving the district money, because if you have a dedicated person who is focused on making sure that what's considered excess at one school and is needed at a different school is simply transferred, as opposed to buying new and disposing from the other school. So there is some opportunity for a position like this to actually save the district money. But it really is a compliance concern around having the best stewardship of our resources, and especially our capital resources. Historically, that entire activity has sat at the level of our director of purchasing, and I don't mean overseen by the director of purchasing. I mean actually the director of purchasing as a position, and it is just not feasible for the director of purchasing to serve their other functions while also serving this role for the district. I'm going to skip over human resources because I think it would be inappropriate for me to speak to it as opposed to Executive Director Cooley. And I will jump to the certified herbicide applicator. So this is a position that we would like to look at in an attempt to better manage our grounds across our schools, specifically looking at the weeds issue that we regularly face. Presently, the only employee in the district who is legally able to spray weeds at our properties is Director Ensign, who is our Director of Facilities. We have looked at outsourcing that work, and the quotes came back at a very high dollar amount, which I have on the slide, $225,000. And so if we would like our schools to be more inviting and a more clean look to our campuses and a better area for our students to learn, it really appeared that our options were to try to add the position at a much lower cost or outsource that work at a much higher cost. So that is actually a request that we view as simply kind of good business practice, if that's a priority that we would like to address. And we have heard from campuses and community that weeds are something that we would like to see less of at our schools. The Title IX and Legal Compliance Coordinator, that work is presently being done at the cabinet level and is very time intensive. And we would like to provide better service to those families that are going through that already stressful process. Not that we aren't providing good customer service in that area, but the way we're presently doing it, I don't know if I would call it sustainable. The dental and vision election for all employees, it doesn't have a cost, but that is directly us listening to feedback, similar to how I shared that we've seen the district losing some employees due to the high performance pay structure. We've also lost some employees around them not being able to elect dental and so and vision. And so this is an opportunity to basically saying to our employees, if it's important enough to you that you want to pay for it, and it really isn't a very high cost, honestly, who are we to say no? And so that is all of those. I'll hand over the mic to Executive Director Cooley to talk about the human resources position.
Thanks, Michael. We have a very small but mighty team. I joke around with Dr. Davidson. I feel like he didn't fully disclose to me whenever I got here. I'm like, what's going on? But we have 2 hiring personnel in that department for about 1,500 employees. And when we go through this time of year, there's turnover. There's also recruiting and retaining. Those are huge components. And so the 2 individuals that are there have a very busy job during this 6 months of the year, keeping up with compliance and standards while also servicing those new employees and providing a warm and welcoming experience to make them want to actually be here. That's a critical component to what we do. And right now, as I assess, I feel like we could do better. We just had one of our team members resign after being here only a short few months. And so now I have one staff member. And so all of us have to, of course, pick up, and we're all willing to come together as a team, but that's really difficult as we head into this hiring season. If I was able to add a third person to provide some training and continuity to our department, that would really help us during this kind of time, but also later when we're looking to provide that excellent service to our staff. They deserve that. And so that's kind of where this request came from. So I did a little digging, and the last time that we actually added a hiring personnel was in 2002 when we built our 8th school. We're building school 17, and it's 2023. So 24.
Which is not surprising to any of one who's paid attention over time. I mean, it used to be a point of pride how much work we could do with as few people as possible. And I'm glad to see that we are trying to turn that tide. We don't want to be excessive, of course, but we don't want to burn people out either. And we want to provide good service. We want people to want to work here. And so, yeah, I'm all in favor of that. Thank you for the.
And I'll add one more thing, just because I think Executive Director Cooley is a little too humble to mention it. And it's that by providing a third person in this hiring process, it also allows us to change the structure of how that work is being performed and provide better customer service to our schools. So presently, the work is broken up depending on the type of employee that's being serviced, whereas potentially adding a third would at least allow us to explore the opportunity to have an HR representative focused on specific schools, so that the school would have a better customer service experience as well, because they would have one point of contact in HR. I hope you can hear throughout that there are benefits to our schools in each of these requests, even though they may be positions that sit at a district level.
And then overall, do you have like a gauge, or I know that we look at like classroom spending and that sort of thing, but like, will there come a point from a management perspective where we would say, you know what? I know the Auditor General reports different numbers as well, where we would say, okay, we've gone too far. Now we have too much of our funding going to outside the actual classroom itself. Like, is that something we're looking at?
Well, I do think, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. I do think you mentioned one of the better sources for that type of analysis. The Auditor General's office every year publishes a report that they call Dollars in the Classroom report. That's published around March, and so we don't have the we have the most recent data. It's just the most recent data is a little bit older, and that looks at administrative spending across peer districts, and they have methods how they identify the peer districts. And at the most recently published report, Litchfield is considered very low in administrative spending. We may see that bump up a little bit this year due to some of the organizational chart changes. The organizational chart didn't have a substantial cost, but what it did do is change how we classify certain positions when it comes to that analysis. And so we may see a bump up in our administrative spending this next report, but it's not, it's going to be because of some of those reclassifications. As a reminder, the estimate of the cost of the org chart change was around $40,000, but it required us to reclassify full positions. So I'll definitely go into more detail on that in March when we present it. But I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Clymer?
No questions, but Matt, I think that's called bait and switch. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but I hope Principal Tassen's not listening there in the back row, because that might happen to her as well. So we'll just have to see about that. No, thank you very much for the explanation. I think we are caught in a rough spot, right? Because we have a lot of staff members that are working extremely hard at our campus level, and they understand that we're going to be asking them to do more with less. It's just at our administration level, they've been doing more with less since 2002, right? We've been behind the 8 ball for a very long time. And so I think trying to even out the playing field is appropriate. We just have to do it slowly over time. And I think we've been doing that. So thank you for giving us the history and the background on all of that.
I don't have any questions, but I would like to point out that I have always felt like this district has tried to run like we're a small district, but we're not a small district. We're going to have 17 schools, and we have to start acting like we're a larger district. And that means we have to staff accordingly. And so while it seems frustrating probably to some when we're talking about these budget cuts and changes in the schools, our schools will not be able to function if we don't have certain people in certain areas at an admin level, making sure that all those things are done so that the teachers can teach in the classroom. I do think that all the parts are integrated. And so all of it is to the benefit of our students. And I also have faith in this board up here too, that we have a pretty good pulse on what's going on. We keep an eye on things and we ask the questions. I hope people see that are watching, that we're not just going to let it run away and let administration costs get high. If we start seeing that's a problem, I believe in us saying that's a problem. And I believe in our administrative team over here that they're not going to let that happen either. So that's all my comments. I think that might be all the things, right? Mr. Vaughn, do we have more or is that everything?
We do have more. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
As you might recall from our earlier budget conversations in November, where we did a deep dive on M&O spending, our salaries, benefits, and contracted staff made up approximately 90% of the spending. The next largest category is utilities, which make about 4% of spending. The district has been working with a utilities partner to review steps the district can take to reduce the overall utilities spend for the district and improve operations of our schools. Connected to these types of utilities improvements, Arizona school districts have a unique funding opportunity called Guaranteed Energy Cost Savings Contracts. These contracts and projects are supported by third-party loans, federal incentives, and local funds. Then, any required debt payments are paid back using the utility savings generated by the projects. Due to the unique arrangement, these instruments do not have an impact on the ability of the district to issue bonds or other debt instruments. This slide graphically highlights how these projects tend to flow. It begins with an energy audit to determine the viability of potential projects, which results in a guaranteed savings agreement. You then pursue third-party financing and otherwise build out the funding mechanism with federal incentives and local funds. Those funds are used to make the energy savings improvements, and the savings are then used to make the debt payments on the third-party financing. Some typical areas of improvement include classroom lighting conversion to LED, which are more efficient but also improve the overall lighting quality for our students. HVAC replacements, which support the district replacing aging units prior to their failure. Integrating smart technology into the schools to help automate energy savings, addressing areas of improvement such as weatherization, air leakage, and insulation, reducing interior water use, and installing solar to reduce our dependence on APS to help protect the district from future rate increases. The guaranteed energy savings agreements are beneficial for districts in many different ways. They're supported by specific state statute that make resources available to the district that we would not otherwise have access to. Doing these same sort of energy savings improvements to capture future savings on utility spending could be very risky for individual school districts to explore, but under the statute, the risk is borne by the partner. Specifically, if savings are not realized as built out in the plan, the partner is required to reimburse the district for the difference. This makes these projects effectively risk-free for the school district. These projects are also built to generate savings into the future, even after the required financing is paid off. So not only does the district receive improvements to our campuses that help save on utilities to pay for the improvements. We should also be capturing savings for years afterwards. Lastly, the financing related to these types of agreements have no impact on our tax rate. So this is a very tax conscious way to infuse additional resources into our district for our community. To move this work forward at our next meeting, you'll see an agenda item to approve Stifel, the district's investment banker, to move forward with shopping for rates for third-party financing related to energy savings projects. That information will serve as an input to our energy partner to build out the specific projects for Litchfield based on the energy facility audits that they've already conducted. We will then be scheduling a study session to discuss the specifics of what our energy savings plan looks like prior to asking for approval to move forward. At this time, we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Owens.
Yeah, no questions. I ironically drove by my old elementary school today, Villa de Paz, and I noticed like the campus looks the same, but they have solar in the parking lots and everything like that. And so I've always wondered about Millennium High School's got covered parking. So I think this is important to look into and interested to find out what kind of feedback we get and what are the options.
Ms. Moran.
Yes, I have two questions. My first question is, what other districts are successfully using this now that you know of? Anyone in the area?
Yeah, so I think Eric may be better equipped to answer this question, but generically, I can say a lot of them.
Okay.
Board Member Rand, currently Creighton is in their 5th phase of this. And it was a pretty drastic savings right away, which is why they continue to move through the different phases. And that was, as we looked and talked through this, it was similar. How would we phase this out to ensure it is providing those opportunities to save on our utilities? Tolleson High School is just getting involved in the solar piece. And when we look at our colleagues who are going through this, the CFO there, Ken Hicks, is probably one of the tightest CFOs across the state, but very well respected. And so I had lunch with him last week, and he shared this news that they were looking to do it at all of their schools. And I was a little shocked because he cleaned up a mess years ago at a prior district that didn't really facilitate the process as well as they could have. And so he's seen both sides of it. And that spoke volumes to me to hear him say that the investment was worth the savings on his utilities. Currently, we spend almost 2 times or maybe more than 2 times the average cost of utilities per square foot. And that's even with some of the great work that Mr. Ensign has done in controlling our systems. This would allow us to get even better with that and streamline some pieces. And as Mr. Vaughn said, the lighting in classrooms will be greatly different and efficient with a longer life than what we're currently using. So knowing some of these other colleagues across the district are also doing it. Of course, we've reached out to them. Gilbert's already done it. Queen Creek is going through it. I think the greatest piece is that we don't have to use tax dollars to do it. We could speed it up if we use bond dollars, but we have an avenue to not. And so as we continue to explore this, I go back to how do we connect it with last year's audit? We know that there was $180 million worth of facility management work from that audit last year. And how do these things connect? And that's what I'll do with this organization once the audit is done and put those two together to see where does our savings come in the grand scheme of things over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Thank you for that. It kind of seems too good to be true. Are there any cons that you're aware of to this?
Not that I'm aware of. Honestly, where Ryan was saying he's driving around seeing solar, from my understanding, this is how all of that is coming to be. Where there, I was trying to think about it. Yeah. the reason it really is structured the way it is you have this third-party loan that you are paying interest on, but you just have to make sure that the contract is written such that that guarantee is enough to pay for the payments on that debt. But that's been the entire conversation with this partner, and that's what we'll be ensuring. And I'm comforted both by the partners that we're bringing on board from a legal perspective. There's an attorney that we can work with through the trust that has been engaged with almost all of these contracts throughout the state. So they are very knowledgeable on kind of the catches that could happen in them. But also being able to engage Stiefel and Brian, who we've seen tonight and seen many times. He's a very important partner to us on these larger financing projects. And so I feel like we're bringing the right team to the table to look at this and really critically evaluate how we may be able to reduce our utility spending, or at least better manage it in a very long-term way.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a win if we can just keep things steady state. So,
Right.
yeah.
Board
Okay,
member,
great.
Board
Thank
member
you.
Moran, I need
Yes.
to correct myself. I said Creighton, I meant Cartwright.
Thank you.
Ms. Clymer.
I think I might only have one question, and that is, obviously, this is a significant investment in long-term. What is this isn't working, how do we get out of it? Plan B, right? I mean, I know you said we have the best legal team, we have investment bankers, we have all the right people there, but to Mr. Stone's point, there has been previous school districts that have either gotten in over their head or it hasn't bared out the way that they wanted it to. I know we'll have more information about this. We're not approving this tonight. I'm just wondering, like, is there a plan B? Is there a trapdoor? Like, what do we do if 10 years from now this isn't working for us? Is there some way to unravel that?
So I'd have to dig in deeper for that. How these are structured is it really is a long-term agreement. So we're talking about probably a 20-year contract where we're paying off debt over that same or similar time frame, and that we're guaranteed that savings along that same time frame. What's interesting about the question is the savings are going to be generated by improvements done to our schools. So even if the savings don't come to fruition and we have to trigger those guarantees, the improvements will already be done. We'll either already have solar panels or we'll already have better lighting in our schools. The light bulbs aren't going to pop out of their sockets, right? I'm not trying to be funny, but
Yeah, I understand.
And so there won't really be undoing those. But to Executive Stone's point, when you think about the facility assessment that we had done, that was not just energy focused, but more holistic, that included a lot of the same areas that this would look at. It included HVAC replacement. It included weatherization and making sure we are maintaining the exteriors of our schools to reduce airflow. And that's partially because these are also wear items. They wear out. And so part of this also is a ability of the district to infuse additional capital resources above and beyond the bond, because we're getting millions of dollars more third-party financing with a different avenue towards paying that off than our taxes. And that'll allow us to stretch the $40 million of the bond program that's for renovations of the existing schools even further. So even if I hate to say it, but even if the energy savings don't come to fruition, it still will have allowed us to infuse additional resources that we wouldn't otherwise have available to us to do improvements at our schools that by and large large will want to have done with different resources anyway.
Mhm. Understood. Thank you. I'm interested in the opportunity, so I look forward to hearing more.
I have no questions, so. And now we're actually at the end of that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is just discussion, so we'll keep talking about all these things going forward. But with that, if nobody has any more questions about this item, we are going to move on to the next section of the agenda. We're going to start with the report from Superintendent Davids.
Thank you, President Zeitma. Just wanted to highlight a few items that have taken place over the last few weeks that have allowed your administrative team to get out in the community and continue to build on our Litchfield Elementary School District brand. First, over the last couple of days, some team members, including myself, had a chance to participate in the School Connect Summit. If you were watching channel 15, I believe, they had a nice little story. I don't believe personally it really captured what the conference was. I don't know if you're familiar with School Connect, but they a nonprofit organization that does a lot with our community partners, faith-based leaders, and connections to schools. You might recognize the name through Love Our Schools Day. That's one of their signature events that many of our schools participate in. So it was just really fun to have LESD 79 represented there and learn about ways we can continue to engage our external partners. Today, as we speak, Dr. Doozy, Ms. Benjamin, and many of our team members from our schools are at the PLC Summit downtown at the Convention Center, representing the hard work that's happening in our schools and in our classrooms, and just really celebrating all that's going on as it relates to collaboration and the work behind the Litchfield learner, making certain our kids are ready to go to high school. So just want to highlight their efforts and say thanks for representing us well downtown. Just the other day, on behalf of our communications team, Mr. Nuanez and Ms. Yardley, we received, I believe, Sam, was it six awards of excellence on behalf of public relations, and had a chance to celebrate Sam's work with just a variety of other districts. And again, just really excited to be there on behalf of our school district and winning those awards. And I was told today that just some really hot off the presses news, not necessarily on behalf of our brand, but very excited for the VES community. We will see the install of those additional classrooms that we've been talking about here at the end of February. I believe our date is February 21. So if all goes as planned, we'll start to see those things being installed. And then Eric, how about an actual, when can we get inside those? Do we know yet?
A little bit later than that, yes. Of course, there's still work to be done with inside of it. Our technology team and facilities maintenance team has to get it all put together, right? It's the boxes dropped. Now we got to make sure we connect to all the dots and cross the T's and moving furniture. So I would not expect students to be in there anytime in the near future. Of course, we want to make sure it passes all the inspections and is ready to go full-fledged. So.
All right. And last but not least, I know we just want to tell our staff, thank you. I know there's a lot of invitations for team members to go out and read in classrooms right now. And so we just want to say thank you to them for the invitations, but also I know many of you board members are having the chance to do that as well. So thank you. And Ms. Idema, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to reports from the governing board members, and we'll start with Mr. Owens tonight.
Thank you. Somebody who drives by Verado Elementary School every day, I see that parking lot and I see the progress and I'm excited for it. Just real quick, I want to thank, so yesterday I got to read here at LESD or Litchfield Elementary School to Miss Mygray's first grade class and then Miss Hughes' kindergarten class. And we do campus tours and showcases and get to watch the kids and everything like that from all the different grade levels. But reading to the students is definitely one of the highlights for me. I read to my daughters every night before bed, and just it's so fun watching the kids, how they're animated and they react to different parts of the books and the stories. So that's kind of what I did since the last board meeting, since I think we did a board report last time. So other than that, not much to report.
Ms. Moran.
Thank you. Yes, we just did board reports 2 weeks ago. So not a whole lot has happened, but I was able to attend the Litchfield Elementary School District Educational Foundation meeting. That's always held the first Friday of the month. And the team on the foundation is working really hard toward our Pride Awards that will be coming out in May. We've been doing that for many years. And they're working very hard on the golf tournament, which is the primary fundraiser that happens annually for the foundation. That's going to be held April 5th at the Wigwam. And it's always a good time. So I believe they will have some groups available for the general public to purchase as well. More information on that as we get closer. I was also able to attend my bi-monthly meeting with Dr. Davidson, where we talk about different things that have come up. Sometimes district specific, sometimes just education in general. It's always informative and insightful. So I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me twice a month usually. And I'm going to end my report this month with a message of gratitude. So I'm really appreciative of our campus staff, the teachers on our campuses, and the leaders of our campuses for their dedication to our students and families. I hope that you feel appreciated. As board members, we try to come and see you every opportunity that we get. And we feel your passion every time that we step into a classroom, into a lunchroom, into the front office, into a resource room. We do see you, and we hope that you feel supported and appreciated, because I know that we have the best of the best in our employee here at LASD. And I want you to know that I am very thankful for you, and that we as a board are very thankful for you. So I hope that you also know that you are making a difference in our district and in our students' success and the role that they go on to play in their lives. So I appreciate that. To end my report, I'm going to quote some lyrics by Dave Matthews Band, the song You Might Die Trying. To change the world, it starts with one step, however small. First step is hardest of all. Once you get to your gate, you will walk in tall. If you give, you begin to live, and you get the world. Thank you to our teachers and staff.
Thank you, Ms. Clymer.
Yes, I will try to keep this short. I didn't report on a couple of things last time. We were off in our meeting rotation, and so I didn't do that. So I wanted to go back and say thank you to Principal Tassin and Principal Acosta for hosting us in our governing board showcases. You hear us talk about them all the time, and the students that we meet and the teachers that we interact with. But I just want to say thank you to the admin and the staff members that lead us around, that prepare the agenda, and they have every minute planned from the moment that we get there to the moment that we leave. We typically overstay our welcome. That's probably correct, but they have data presentations. They have, here are our needs. Here's what we're looking to do. So it is all business from start to finish. And I know it's a lot to put together. So thank you for doing it. We love being there. It is our way to stay connected and understand what's really happening on the ground. So thank you for inviting us, and please continue to do so. Want to say thank you to Katie Hill for introducing me a couple of years ago to this Reader's Rock, I think it's called. I have so much fun. I love coming back here to Litchfield. Yesterday, I read to Miss Cook's third grade class and Miss Glather's kindergarten class. This was my second year in Glather's kindergarten class, and everyone was just amazing. The students are wonderful. It's a total bucket filler. I mean, anyone in the district, parents, grandparents, anyone in the community that wants to do that, if you just need a little pick-me-up, just volunteer to go in the classroom, right? Just raise your hand and say, I will. Someone will find a place for you. They will find something for you to do, and I guarantee you will leave better for it. So please do. I also want to say thank you to Dr. Davidson. He meets with all of us on a regular basis, whether it's via phone or sitting down and chatting. And again, I will say I probably overstay my welcome in those meetings as well, but it's always nice to get a behind the scenes look. So thank you for taking the time. It really is meaningful to me to help me stay connected. A big thank you to our cabinet members and everyone at the district office staff. I know that these budget cuts and staffing and, many of you over there are new, or at least within the last couple of years. And the majority of the decisions made that led us here happened before you arrived. So you came on knowing that this was going to be a challenge and you've tackled it head on. You've done the very best that we could have asked for as a board. We knew some of these problems would arise as we made these decisions over the years with the extra money. I don't regret any of the decisions that we made. They made perfect sense at the time. And even now, looking back, I think we have seen the excellence in our staff and our students that we wouldn't have seen if we didn't give them the opportunity to do that. So thank you for your patience, communication. I know it feels uneasy across the district because this is happening, but I think as our employees always do, they're going to rise to the occasion. We're going to find the right place and the right school family for everyone. And I think we'll be better for it once we can get through this. And last but not least, I just want to say thank you, a huge shout out to our community for continually passing our bonds, overrides, et cetera. So many points that you've talked about tonight have come directly because of that support for the bond. We have a school 17, we have a brand new principal. We are now able to elevate other people in our district to that admin level because we are growing, which most districts aren't doing, which is great. We have security measures going into place, which I know our employees are going to be thankful for. We have new classrooms coming on 2 different campuses and probably more to come as we keep growing. So it's a lot of work to manage all of those funds and to make sure we're doing the very most with what we can, what we've been given. So thank you to the community for entrusting us with that money. And thank you again to everyone that has to now enact all of those projects that we've promised. So thank you.
Well, I will keep this very short because we did just give a report not too long ago. I wanted to start off. I was able to attend the unified soccer event at Palm Valley Elementary School. It was so fun to watch the kiddos getting to participate and everybody was cheering them on. Every student there was super excited for all the kids and it was just a fun event to watch. And a special shout out. Thank you so much to Kelly Jordan. She is an incredible teacher who goes above and beyond to make sure that everyone feels special and that everyone gets to shine. And her passion for making sure that all our kiddos get to have that moment is just unlike anything I've seen from anywhere. And I just am so appreciative that our district has her and that she's taken this on. And I'm excited to see the next event, which I think she told me is going to be in April, and to see if any more of our campuses will potentially have this take place because we have a lot of campuses with special programs. And so I'd love to see this opportunity grow in our district on other campuses as well. I too was able to read yesterday at Litchfield. So thank you, Katie Hill, for that opportunity. I agree. It is a bucket filler. Small kids are my favorite. And I was able to go in and read with Miss Mendoza's class, which is the K2 sales room. And they were so great. They were so good. We read 2 books because we had enough time to read 2 different stories, and they sat there and they listened the whole time and they were so nice, and they started playing with my books on the side, but they were just attentive and it was fun and it just made me feel so good. And then I also got to read to Miss Williams' 5th grade class, and they also loved my little kid books. So that was super exciting. And they asked me to read more. They wanted me to stay longer. They said that they were okay with me taking as much of the day as I wanted to, but I let them know that no, I knew they had a lot of important learning to do, but thank you so much for having me out. So thank you for putting that on every year for the kids. And I'll come out anytime you want people to read. Literally, it doesn't have to be once a year because I love it. It's my favorite. Every school tour we go on, they'll tell you like anytime we get to go in and see the like little kinders, it's the best part of my day. So, but they're all great. All the kids have been spectacular. And I was very impressed, especially with the 5th graders and how they were like, yes, please read me. Don't Eat the Babysitter. We would love to hear that. And it's such a little kid book, but they were super into it. So I had a great time. Lastly, because it's such a short amount of time, today I was able to attend a PTA meeting at Rancho Santa Fe. I bring that up because I encourage all of our parents and community members to get involved in our schools. Schools cannot do it alone, and we need to work together in order to lift up all our students. And I encourage anybody that's interested in joining their local parent group and finding a way to get involved and to volunteer at a campus. And it can be done in a variety of ways, from reading in classrooms, making copies, doing stuff at home. There's lots of different ways and different opportunities for people to get involved, but I encourage anyone and everyone that's interested in really seeing what's going on in our schools to volunteer, because that's the best way to see what's happening. With that, I'm going to wrap up my report because there's not a lot going on this month since the last time we did this. But I did want to thank all our administrators for sending in their reports. We did not get them last month, so it was nice to see again what's going on the campuses and hear from our principals and hear from our different directors of all the work that they're doing, because we know that they are working around the clock to make sure that our schools are great for all our kids, and lots of amazing things are happening on our campuses. So thank you for putting that together for us. And with that, we are done. I'll take a motion.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran,
Yay.
Ms. Clymer.
Yay.
I'm also yay. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for joining.